So maybe you've decided to start freelancing, set up your own business, and maybe you're already a couple of months or even a couple of years in. Well, 6 years ago, I decided to start freelancing off the back of being made redundant at what I thought was a fairly steady job. I had a couple of months where I kind of thought that it was coming, so didn't have a huge amount of time to prepare myself, set things up, and actually learn about the business and freelance world. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 9 mistakes that I made whilst freelancing and things I wish I did differently so that you don't make the same mistakes. If we're meeting for the first time, my name is David Winter and I run a video production company up here in the northeast of England. We've got ourselves a few team members, we're kind of well on our way, but alongside that, we are setting up a few different brands and businesses that we are trying to build online. We've actually got my drum channel for starters, which is of course all things drums, all things music. So if you like Iron Maiden, then head over to that channel. But we've mostly got Affinity Racing, which is one of the bigger brands that we are trying to build online. We got ourselves our YouTube channel. It's well on its way as well, although still in the very early days, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of that journey on this channel, but that's all well into the future, and I actually want to go 6 years into the past, where we're going to talk about day one of me setting up as a freelancer. So the first few mistakes I actually feel are fairly obvious. We're all guilty of making the same mistakes, and they're the kind of things you need to do to get your foot in the door. But as we go through this video, we start to think a little bit longer term. We start to think about business models, revenue streams, and a little bit more of the exciting stuff. So make sure you stay tuned, catch all of these points, and if you've got some mistakes that you feel you are making or you want other freelancers to be aware of, make sure you drop some comments down below. Mistake number 1 is probably one of the most obvious, and it is pricing. When I first started, I was charging literally £10 an hour. It was now less than minimum wage and just above minimum wage 6 years ago. It was what I thought I had to do to try and get my foot in the door, and ultimately I didn't really appreciate the skill set that I actually had. As much as we're a video production company now, I actually started out doing social media management. That was my job that I got made redundant from, and so I just thought, let's just set that up as a business. And social media still at the time was a fairly kind of unknown ground for a lot of businesses, and so social media management, social media marketing, and basically writing the odd blog posts for businesses, small businesses, was where I thought I needed to be. To me though, social media management or running a Facebook page and knowing where to go for, these different types of settings that people would ring up and have no clue about, to me was a bit of second nature. We'd spent the past year and a half of my previous job managing a total of 182 social media pages. So Twitter, Facebook, all those channels I knew fairly well. And to me though, it was just second nature. It was fairly common knowledge as far as I was concerned. I didn't actually realize how much I was helping these businesses. So £10 an hour was way too low for the actual skill set that I had at that point. But I just basically thought, if I work 40 hours a week at £10 an hour, I'll earn £400 a week, £1,600 a month, and that'll be more than the £1,400-ish a month that I was getting from my job after tax. As far as I was concerned, if I booked and worked 40 hours a week, I would be certainly doing better than my previous job. I should have known at that point you can't really sustain a proper business or living generating £1,600 a month. I also should have realised that you don't actually bill an entire 40-hour work week. At best as a freelancer, you're probably going to be, on average, charging out or billing 2 to 3 days worth of work. The other 2 to 3 days of the week is going to be spent on admin, invoicing, marketing, generating new clients, and already looking after the clients that you have. That doesn't fall under billable hours. If I was lucky, I was generating £700 a month, £800 a month. I remember the first month that I passed 1,000 and thinking that I'd absolutely hit the jackpot. Truth is that now, we'd be in serious danger basically if we only generated £1,000 a month. And having looked back and learned, especially about billable hours and pricing, puts me in a much better position to work out backwards how much you want to earn as a freelancer, divide that by the number of weeks you're going to work, and certainly divide it only by 2 or 3 days worth of work. Remember, 2 days to 3 days admin. The second mistake that I made, which came off the back of such low pricing, was that I took on crap clients and crap work. In fact, the first client that I took on, I'd done 2 months worth of work, still to this day, 6 years later, have not actually been paid. Never mind charging too cheap. Imagine doing all that work and not getting paid altogether. We're going to talk about marketing a little bit later in the video, but ultimately, if your prices are so low, it's going to lead you straight onto this same mistake. You're not going to attract the kind of a client that wants to really invest in their marketing or their creative or their copywriting, whatever it is that you're doing as a freelancer, if you're charging such little costs they're going to see and race you straight down to that bottom to zero and go for the cheapest possible option. Mistake number 3, and this is pretty much the perfect storm. My prices were too low, I was taking on crap clients, and the third mistake that I made was that I didn't have myself enough financial stability around this freelance venture, around starting up. Business is a big, big risk. Around 50% of businesses will fail within the first 2 years, and how I survived the first 2 years, I have absolutely no idea. It would have also meant that I could actually say no to crap clients and only say yes to the good clients that I wanted to work with. Without that financial stability, the first 2 years were literally financial hell. I never knew where the next payment was going to come from for clients, and I never knew where the next payment was going to come from out of my own bank account to pay for things like rent and all my monthly ongoings. I started to get into a little bit of debt, which was never good. Interest rates racking up on things like PayPal credit for a camera that I just bought before being made redundant, which certainly didn't help, and basically got myself into a bit of a nasty pit. And not having that part-time job or that financial stability led me to the 4th mistake of this video, which is that I couldn't and didn't prioritize my marketing. Had I been able to spend a little bit more time on my marketing, I could have actually attracted those better clients. I could have built the brand that I'm now trying to build 6 years later. You see, the problem is that not having a brand, not having a good marketing and client list meant that I was taking on, mistake number 2, the crap clients. And it meant that these first 4 mistakes were one big vicious cycle where I just basically kept falling forward throughout those first 2 years. It was actually when COVID came and a lockdown where I lost all of my work, where I eventually stood back up, got my head above water and looked and thought, right, what do I actually need to be doing here to successfully freelance or run a business? The answer always came back to marketing. And I think if I had that part-time job, I wouldn't have took on any work at all. I would have actually spent 6 months just building up my brand, building up my marketing and a good client list, so that one day I could go, right, the doors are open, we have launched as an agency, and just see instant work or something close to instant work coming straight through the doors. That is definitely the way I wish I had done it, and it's one of the ways that I always recommend freelancers just starting up, try that route as much as possible. That cycle of those 4 mistakes leads me on to mistake number 5, which is that I didn't reach out to more clients. Nobody's realistically going to be happy cold calling. No one wants to be told no, but I feel if I just reached out to a few more businesses, maybe it's just 1 more business a day, that's 5 businesses a week, 20 businesses, 25 businesses a month, and I think that would have made a really big difference. I did do a little bit of this and I was offering work for free. It was good stuff for the portfolio, and I did actually get a lot of recommendations off the back of it. Just when I look back now, why I didn't do more, I've got no idea. Now we're getting into the more exciting stuff. We've talked about launching and kind of growing a business, but how do we actually make that, set up for success? Well, mistake number 6 was that I didn't have myself good systems and processes. Even still today, I've got to be honest, this is one of the things that trips us up now and again on certain projects. For a start, you want yourself a good contract. Any good freelancer needs a good contract. Most businesses are built, or the strength of a business is built on their systems and processes. And for a freelancer, I think your contract is equally as important. There's a lot of jobs that I took on throughout the past 6 years where it was word of mouth. It was a recommendation to or from a friend. And so sometimes you think, oh, I'll not bother with a contract. I'll just quickly turn up with my camera, quickly get it shot. I'll throw them the invoice and I'm sure they will pay it. Well, that naivety bit me so many times that I've actually lost count, and is one of the big, big mistakes that I found myself keep tripping over the same hurdle as the years went by. Even today, one of the biggest things that I'm trying to push forward in our business is an absolute rigid systems and process and contract for when it comes to our client work. Over the past first 3-4 years of freelancing, I was so desperate to get the work over the line that I would agree to pretty much anything, or I would just say, don't worry about it, we'll sort it on the day. Any other ideas, any other changes, any other stuff that would just kind of interrupt the flow of a project, I would just lap all that up and just say, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. We will do that on the day, we'll sort it all out. Do not worry. Whereas now I'm taking a different approach. I actually want everything listed out. I want the client to have their own platform, which we're in the middle of building or putting together, where they will tick the box of everything that they want. They will sign the contract. They will see everything right there on the screen, and we will not process until that is done. We will not process until we're happy with everything, as much as the client. Previously, for the first 3-4 years, it was always the other way around. Number 7, not really a mistake I could do much about, but it was not understanding business business models. You see, in the early days, I didn't really do my research. I was hopped up on Gary Vee, and so I just thought, build a business, monetize your passion, just go do it. And I'm glad that I did, but I really wish I'd taken a little bit more time earlier in the day to really understand how business actually works. So, business models. A lot of people might think of a subscription-based model. It's probably one of the first things that comes to their mind if they think about business models. The reason, for example, this business model is so popular is that it feels like you do a load of legwork at the beginning and then you can basically be hands-off, and it is super easy. That's not quite the truth for subscription, but when it comes to service-based agencies and basically where you're selling your time, that business model is a little bit, at times, stressful. You see, you can only sell the number of hours that you're able to work, especially as a freelancer, and once you start getting into the agency world, you've got so many operating costs that it can be pretty expensive, the day rates that you have to put yourself out at. Ultimately, it means you're always trying to get in more work so that you can sustain the business, and sometimes you don't want to turn down work, and so you have to get more people into the business just to do that work, and then you have to fulfill them. So then you have to get more work in to fulfill them, then you don't want to turn down more work, and you hire more employees. The cycle continues, except it's not really a cycle, because you basically take the next step, next step, next step, and it's like a never-ending staircase that eventually does end in a complete drop to the bottom. You take that extra step, you think you're doing the right thing, but ultimately you're trying to grow a business. A video agency business like we have is very difficult. A service-based business or a service agency, very difficult. You're always running really fine margins as you grow, and all it takes is one project to go wrong, one invoice to not get paid, or even just a certain set of costs to increase, be that wages, be that subscriptions, whatever it might be. A 10% rise in your costs could absolutely wipe out a business. We've been very, very close to that in the past year. So with this, I'm very conscious that our business model can be fairly limited. You can only sell time for money. And that leads on to the next mistake, which is understanding revenue streams. Looking now, we're trying to tie in other revenue streams into the business, something that maybe covers a certain set of costs or something that allows us to just be a little bit more profitable into the future. Doing the legwork now, as we talked about with the business model of a subscription business, trying to do that ourselves. How are we doing that? Well, there's a few different ways. One thing that I am exploring is the niche at the moment of digital products. There's a few digital products that I've bought, be it templates, Excel sheets, whatever it might be. There's a few of those that we could potentially look at. To talk specifically about a video agency, selling images and photos to stuff like Shutterstock, Storyblocks, all those kinds of things could be another great little revenue stream. Took me a few years to even realize that that was possible, but that's certainly something that we're looking at. Alongside that, and we're kind of flipping between revenue streams and business models here, but Affinity Racing is a brand that we are wholly and exclusively trying to build online. When all said and done, it will filter down into real world businesses that we're going to be building probably 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And I did a video recently talking about my plans for probably the next 50 years in business. So that will be on the YouTube channel soon, if not already. Do go check that out. But we're talking about Affinity Racing and the businesses that that's going to filter down in. That could literally be car events, it could be motorsport events, it could be go-karting tracks. In an ideal world, it's actually going to be all of those, but that's what we want that marketing to filter down into. So we're thinking about business models, not just selling time for money, but building brands and building an asset and something that can generate multiple revenue streams. The final mistake that I made was actually just pure ignorance. I always thought that I would just be a freelancer. I didn't want to hire anybody. I just wanted to be myself, work by myself, and work with nobody else. I never had visions of employing people, but that is something that we've had to do as time's gone on. I've been overworked, overtraded, and basically finishing work at 3 o'clock in the morning and being out at 7 a.m. There's only so many days and nights that you can manage that. And I basically was forced into hiring somebody. And that's what I'm talking about earlier on in business models. You're always wanting to hire somebody because you don't want to turn down the work. It's just the nature of a business owner or somebody entrepreneurial. One thing I highly recommend as I'm talking to freelancers who may just be starting up and it's really, really daunting to launch a business, to set all of that up, and then have somebody like me talk to you about hiring someone from day one is just makes the whole thing even more daunting and kind of, thinking that it's not going to be worthwhile and they sack it off immediately. But that's not the point. I'm trying to, when I'm talking with other freelancers, explain that that was the mindset that I had, and then 5 years had built something that really didn't work, and only in the past year and a half now are we starting to build towards something that will work. One phrase that I wish I knew earlier in business is that you should be building a business to sell, even if you have no intention of selling it. When we look at big businesses and we see where money gets invested into, it's actually a business with a really good management team, with really good profits and profitability and turnover, and can actually see through economic challenging times, or maybe is innovating in the space. Either way, a good investment and a business that they know will be a steady ship as things go forward. That is what you want to try and build, even if you have no intention of selling it. If you're going to be a freelancer, the time freedom and flexibility that you think you're going to get is nothing but a myth. I can guarantee that. You will only ever get one of those three things. They never come all together. Even the most successful freelancers that you might see probably have themselves a little bit of help behind the scenes. They might actually be a freelancer, a sole trader setup, but I guarantee they've got themselves some help. Be it video editing, be it blog writing, be it graphic design, or even their accountants. There's all elements of business. They're not doing it all by themselves. And that ultimately was the problem that I had for 5 years. I was making all these mistakes that I've gone through in this video, and I was trying to do it all by myself. I didn't want any help from people in a certain sense. I couldn't afford help from people, most certainly. And I kind of had the ignorance that I could do it all myself and that I would get through it. And in a certain sense, I did, but only 5 years later, once I started hiring or made my first hire, and Ben, who's our video editor here at the agency, was the first hire and was an absolute game changer. I realized what I now want to do in business, and it's certainly not being a freelancer. So with that, that's a little bit of a brutal truth, but hopefully these earlier mistakes have helped, or at least helped you avoid them, or if you're making them now, know how to navigate your way around and out of them. If I can help anybody with any questions, please do drop them in the comments of this video. I'll be sure to reply or even make a video about it. And we're also doing a business Q&A series where at the moment we're taking a load of questions from Reddit forums. Some really, really great content in there and a lot of help. But if you've got yourself some questions that you'd like to see answered on those videos, then drop them in the comments and I will be sure to answer them. That's all for now though. Really hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget that this entire channel is dedicated to all things that I do in business. All of our business ventures, the struggles, the highs, the lows of building multiple, as it seems at the moment, brands and businesses online. Hopefully this video helps, and I'll see you in the next one.